Waste good food on me, my sister smirked. Leave the gift and go home. My parents just watched. I smiled and said, "You'll regret this tonight." Her wedding dress caught every spotlight in the room. Every crystal, every sequin, every white fold of fabric seemed designed to make her shine. And my table did not even have water. It did not have a place card. It did not have silverware. It had nothing except a quiet, deliberate reminder of exactly where I ranked in my own family. My parents did not defend me. My father even muttered that maybe I should go. So I did. I stood up and walked out past the whispers, past the smirks, past the faces that had been waiting to see whether I would break. But I was carrying something they never saw. Not anger, not shame. Something colder, something steadier. Before I tell you how everything collapsed around them, let me take you back to where it all began. Because in that moment, as I left my sister's perfect wedding, they had no idea what they had just lost. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood outside Charleston, the kind with trimmed lawns, polite smiles, and families who looked perfect from the sidewalk. Ours looked perfect too, at least in pictures. In every framed photo lining our hallway, Brooke stood in the center, glowing, confident, dressed as if the sun had been built just to find her best angle. And me, I was always near the edge of the frame, a little too quiet, a little too observant, a little too wrong. My mother, Linda, never said she favored Brooke. She never had to. It was in the way her voice changed whenever Brooke walked into the room. Lighter, warmer, almost musical. It was in the way she sighed at me as if I were static interrupting her favorite song. My father, Charles, measured human worth in resumes, titles, salaries, and things he could repeat proudly at dinner parties. My work-from-home consulting did not fit the image he wanted to brag about. "You need a real job," he would say, not even looking up from the news. But the truth was, I had a real job, just not one he understood. My intuition had always been sharp. Too sharp, if you asked my parents. When I was 11, I warned my mother that Dad's new business friend made my stomach twist. There was something off about him. His forced smile, his jittery hands, the strange energy around him that I could not shake. Mom brushed me off. She told me I was imagining things again. 2 months later, that same man drained one of Dad's accounts and nearly cost us the house. There was no apology after that, no admission, no moment where my parents looked at me and said, "You were right." Just silence. The kind of silence that tells you the truth does not matter when it comes from the wrong child. Middle school was the first time someone actually listened to me. I told the teacher something was wrong about a substitute coach. It was not one specific thing at first. It was the way he stared too long, the way he lingered where he should not have lingered, the way the air seemed to change whenever he entered a hallway full of girls. My teacher trusted me, and she was right to. He was later caught installing a hidden camera in the girls' locker room. That day changed everything, because that teacher introduced me to her Aunt Evelyn, a consultant with a mind sharper than any blade. Evelyn did not flinch when I told her about my intuition. She did not call me dramatic. She did not call me broken. She did not tell me to stop being so sensitive. She said, "Your mind sees shadows other people pretend are not there. That is not a flaw, Madison. That is leverage." Under Evelyn's guidance, I learned how to read patterns. I learned how to dissect motives. I learned how to see the business world the way some people see equations, risks, pressure points, hidden incentives, lies wrapped in polished language. By college, I was quietly helping companies recover from disaster. But at home, I was still just the girl in socks with a laptop. The one who sat at the kitchen table late at night. The one who paid a portion of the household bills while everyone still insisted she did nothing. Meanwhile, Brooke lived like the world had been padded for her comfort. Promotions, compliments, praise, attention. Everything flowed her way as if it had been pre-ordered. When she announced her engagement to Lucas, the room lit up as if someone had plugged my parents into an outlet. My mother clasped her hands to her chest. My father smiled with the kind of pride he never wasted on me. Brooke held out her ring like it was proof that the universe had finally put its seal of approval on her life. But the moment I shook Lucas's hand, something cold slid down my spine. It was not jealousy. It was warning. His palm was dry. His smile was polished. His eyes moved too quickly, taking inventory before anyone realized he was counting. I tried to gently tell Brooke to slow down. She laughed as if I were a minor inconvenience in her otherwise perfect orbit. "Oh, Madison," she said, almost fondly, almost cruelly. "Not everything is a conspiracy." And that was the beginning. The beginning of everything that would eventually lead to that ballroom, that table with no water, and the sentence that sliced through me like glass. I wish I could say I was surprised by what came next. I wish I could say the cruelty arrived suddenly, without warning, like a storm no one saw forming. But the truth is, the undercurrent had been there long before Brooke's engagement ring. It showed up in small moments, the kind most people miss if they are not paying attention. But I always pay attention. It is the one thing I have never been able to turn off. Lucas entered our family like someone stepping onto a stage he already believed he owned. He shook hands too firmly. He smiled too widely. He spoke in polished phrases that sounded memorized. Most people saw confidence. I saw something hollow, like a drum stretched too tight. When he looked at Brooke, the warmth in his expression did not quite reach his eyes. And when he looked at me, he did not look long at all, as if I were a detail he did not want to acknowledge. At the engagement dinner, I caught him scanning the room the way certain men scan price tags. Brooke clung to his arm, laughing too loudly at jokes he barely finished. My parents watched them like they were witnessing royalty. The whole night had that glossy, too perfect sheen that always makes my instincts flare. I tried to ignore it until the moment Lucas pulled Brooke aside near the kitchen door. They whispered sharply. Brooke kept a smile fixed on her face, the kind of smile a woman wears when she knows people are watching. Lucas's hand closed around her arm a little too tightly. When they walked back, Brooke's lipstick was smudged at the edge, and Lucas's jaw was clenched. Nobody else noticed. They never noticed the cracks until the whole thing broke. 2 days later, the group email went out. It was supposedly a wedding reminder, but anyone with a pulse could read the real message between the lines. Limited seating, no +1s unless approved in advance. Please be mindful, no freeloaders. It did not even pretend to be subtle. Because I was the only one attending alone, everyone knew exactly who that line was for. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I closed my laptop. No reply. No reaction. That always throws people off when the quiet one does not take the bait. My mother, however, could not leave it alone. "You won't cause issues at the wedding, right?" she asked over dinner a few nights later. She did not look at me when she said it. She was too busy spooning potatoes onto Brooke's plate. "What kind of issues?" I asked. "You know how you get," she murmured, waving one hand as if she were dismissing a fly. "How I get?" As if sensing danger were a flaw, as if being right too many times had become an inconvenience, as if the problem was not the fire, but the person pointing at the smoke. Then came the fitting appointment. Brooke said she wanted family bonding, which was her code for an audience. She twirled in a mermaid gown while Mom teared up, and I stood off to the side holding a box of abandoned pins. Lucas arrived halfway through. The first thing he looked at was not Brooke's face. It was the price tag on the dress. Then he kissed her forehead. My father laughed, thinking it was harmless. I saw the calculation in Lucas's eyes. When Brooke asked me what I thought of the dress, I told her the truth. "It's beautiful," I said. She narrowed her eyes. "You said that too fast. There are moments when you can feel the ground shifting beneath you, warning you that something bigger is coming. This was one of them." By the week of the wedding, the energy in the house was thick enough to choke on. Mom barked orders. Dad double-checked seating charts he had not created. Brooke floated through it all like a glitter-covered storm. Every time Lucas opened his mouth, my skin crawled. Every time Brooke brushed me off, something inside me coiled tighter. The morning we left for the venue in Savannah, I felt the same cold sensation I had felt when I first met Lucas, as if someone had left a window open inside my ribcage. But I said nothing. I watched the highway roll past. I watched Brooke scroll through messages. I watched my parents pretend everything was perfect. They did not know it yet, but the story they had built was already starting to crack. The golden daughter, the silent sister, the perfect match. None of them were ready for what those cracks would expose. The wedding venue sat on a stretch of coastal hotel property outside Savannah, the kind of place that seemed to exist mainly for photo albums. White stone, glass railings, rose arrangements that smelled expensive, staff moving like they had been trained not to make a sound. People kept saying the weather was perfect, but to me the air felt too still, like the moment before a storm hits. I arrived earlier than the rest of my family, partly because I wanted to avoid the chaos, and partly because I needed a moment alone. The lobby was already buzzing with guests in pastel dresses and tailored suits. Everyone was talking about Brooke as if she were the main character of their entire weekend. They barely glanced at me. Honestly, I preferred it that way. When my parents walked in, they gave me a quick nod before rushing off to help Brooke with last-minute touches. I stayed back, leaning against a cool marble pillar as Brooke swept through the lobby with Lucas behind her. She looked stunning. Not just physically, but in the way someone looks when the entire world has convinced her she is untouchable. Lucas glanced at me once. For a split second, our eyes locked. The expression on his face was not annoyance. It was not smugness either. It was awareness. Like he recognized me as a threat he did not understand. Then he immediately looked away. I should have said something. I should have warned Brooke again. But what do you tell someone who has already decided she does not need you? At the rehearsal walkthrough, the first real cracks showed. Brooke snapped at a coordinator because the aisle candles were not symmetrical enough. Lucas blamed a groomsman for messing up the timing when Lucas himself had been the one who entered late. My parents stood by them both, smiling thinly, too invested in the image to see the reality wobbling beneath their feet. While everyone rehearsed, I wandered toward the reception hall. Most of the tables were already set. Gold plates, crystal glasses, towering centerpieces, folded napkins standing like little sculptures beside polished silverware. It was beautiful, in a way that almost made me forget the tension humming beneath everything. Then I found my assigned table. It was near the back, against a wall practically hidden behind a pillar. No centerpiece, no water, no place card. Just an empty setup that felt less like a mistake and more like intention. I stood there for a long moment, absorbing it. The hum of conversation from the main tables, the faint salt in the air from the ocean outside, the realization settling slowly in my chest. This was not an oversight. This was preparation for humiliation. Later, when I asked a passing server about it, she hesitated before saying, "I was told this one is self-managed." Then she rushed off before I could respond, leaving those words hanging in the air like dust. Self-managed. In a ballroom filled with catered luxury. Only my table. That evening, back in my hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the navy dress I had laid out for the ceremony. I had chosen it because it made me feel calm, grounded, like myself. But in that moment, I realized it was also armor, not flashy, not for show, just steady enough to remind me that I was not as breakable as my family thought. I could feel the unraveling, the subtle slips, the tension tightening like a pulled thread. And I knew without fully knowing why, that tomorrow was not going to be the fairy tale Brooke imagined. She was pushing something or someone too far. And when you keep pulling a thread, eventually the entire dress comes apart. The morning of the wedding tasted like salt and nerves. Even the air felt heavier, as if the coastline itself sensed what was coming. I slipped into my navy dress and smoothed the fabric over my ribs. It felt like a second skin. Quiet. Steady. Completely unlike the glittering spectacle the day demanded from everyone else. When I stepped out of my hotel room, everything smelled like perfume and pressure. Guests glided through the hallways toward the ceremony, their voices lifted in polite excitement. I walked among them like a ghost, visible but unnoticed. The violin music floated through the corridor as I approached the entrance to the ballroom. Elegant, soft, completely at odds with the tension knotted behind my sternum. Inside, the room shimmered. Light scattered across the polished floor, catching sequins on dresses and gold accents on the tables. Brooke stood near the front, surrounded by bridesmaids. Her veil fanned out behind her like she was posing for a magazine cover. She did not notice me at first. Why would she? I had been a background character in her life for years. I made my way to my assigned table, the same one from rehearsal, still shoved against the wall, still without water, still without silverware, still without a place card. Only this time the other tables were fully set. Wine was being poured, bread baskets were being placed down. Servers moved smoothly from group to group with steaming plates and practiced smiles. Not mine. When I caught the eye of a server walking past, she froze, like she had been caught doing something wrong. "Excuse me," I said quietly. "Is there a delay with this table?" She glanced at her chart, then back at me. Guilt rose in her cheeks. I was told this one is self-managed." The words dropped like stones. "In a catered ballroom?" I asked. She swallowed. "I'm really sorry." Then she hurried away. The humiliation itself was not surprising. What surprised me was how unsurprising it felt. As if I had been bracing for that exact moment my entire life. I sat down anyway. The ceremony itself was a blur of white fabric and vows that sounded like carefully curated social media captions. Brooke smiled like she had won something. Lucas stood beside her in a suit that felt like a costume, sharp lines hiding a hollow core. When they kissed and the room erupted in applause, I clapped too. Not out of joy, out of resignation. This was the world they wanted. This was the image they had built. And I had never belonged in it. After the ceremony, guests flowed into the reception hall. There was laughter, champagne glasses clinking, plates full of food I had not been offered. I stayed seated, silent, with the cool wall at my back. That was when Brooke saw me. She detached herself from a cluster of bridesmaids and walked over, her dress swishing her perfume, arriving before her words did. She leaned down with a smile so syrupy sweet it made my teeth ache. "Waste good food on you," she said. "That's cute." Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. The people closest to us heard it. The ones farther away felt the shift. Heads turned, whispers caught like sparks. I blinked at her, stunned, even though I had prepared myself for something. Just not this. Not this level of precision. Not this level of cruelty. Brooke tilted her head. "You can just leave the gift and go home." Home. A place where I was needed when bills were due, but forgotten at every celebration. I felt every eye on me. But the deepest sting did not come from Brooke's words. It came from seeing my parents, standing just a few feet away, watching, doing nothing. My mother looked at her flowers. My father took a sip of wine. Then he muttered, "Well, maybe she should go." And that was it. That was the moment the last thread snapped. I stood slowly. The room seemed to expand and contract around me like a lung struggling for breath. My napkin slipped off my lap and onto the floor, landing with a soft whisper. "All right," I said, forcing a small smile. "I'll go." Brooke smirked. Victory. But I was not finished. I looked at her. Really looked at her. Then I added, "But just know this. You will all regret it. The air shifted. Someone at the main table dropped a fork. A bridesmaid sucked in a breath. Brooke blinked, confusion slicing through her smugness. Before she could respond, a chair scraped loudly near the front. A tall man in a slate gray suit stood up. Grant, Lucas's older brother. I had not seen him all morning. I care, he said. His voice cut through the ballroom like steel wrapped in calm. And you should listen to her. Every head turned. Brooke scoffed. I'm sorry, who are you? Grant, he replied. Lucas's brother. Lucas stiffened beside her. Grant continued, I kept quiet because I did not want to ruin your day. But Harper's right. He said the wrong name. Harper. He had gotten my name wrong, but no one even noticed. They were too focused on him. You will regret this, Grant said evenly. All of it. The room fell into a deeper silence. Then Grant turned toward the crowd. Since everyone here loves appearances so much, let's rip off the last one. Lucas took one step toward him. Grant, he warned. Grant did not even look at him. Lucas is not an heir to anything. Our father's company filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago. He has been unemployed since. Gasps shot across the room. Brooke whipped toward Lucas. What? Tell me he's lying. Lucas's jaw flexed. I never said I was unemployed. You implied you were taking over, she whispered, her voice beginning to crack. I did not tell you to sign anything, he muttered. And then it all started tumbling out. The condo lease in Brooke's name, the fake timelines, the sudden wedding, the fabricated stability, the carefully built image of a future that did not exist. Brooke's face went pale beneath her makeup. My parents stood frozen. Linda's hand trembled against her necklace. Charles muttered a curse under his breath, suddenly aware that the golden image he worshipped was collapsing in public. But the meltdown was not done. Another voice rose from a table near the front. Firm, older, controlled. Enough. Mr. Dalton stood. He was impeccably dressed, silver hair reflecting the chandelier light. Brooke's eyes widened. Mr. Dalton. He ignored her. He pointed toward me. I came here out of respect, he said. Not for you. For her. A ripple moved through the room. Then he hesitated, as if reaching for a name through all the noise. Harper. He stopped and corrected himself. Madison saved my company 6 months ago. Quietly, efficiently, brilliantly. You all enjoy the stability. Thank her. Brooke's jaw dropped. My parents stared at me as if they had never seen me before. Mr. Dalton continued. She does not need a spotlight or your approval. She just needed to be heard. Brooke swayed, almost missing a step in her heels. The whispers erupted all around us. Questions, shock, regret. A guest near the gift table asked loudly, Are refunds allowed? Someone else whispered, Did they really not serve her food? Another murmured, Brooke's finished. And I inhaled, deep, slow. For the first time all day, the air did not choke me. Grant moved closer and placed a steady hand on my shoulder. Let's go, he said softly. This place is sinking. I nodded. We walked out together past the fallen glitter of Brooke's perfect dream, past my parents' stunned silence, past the wreckage unraveling behind us. When the ballroom doors closed, the ocean breeze hit my face. Not cold, clean, like starting over. Behind us, the wedding was burning. Ahead of me, something else was opening, something that finally felt like mine. The fallout hit faster than any of us expected. By Monday morning, clips from the wedding were circulating online. Shaky phone videos of Brooke's meltdown, Grant's calm revelation, Mr. Dalton saying my name in front of 200 stunned guests. People love a polished disaster, and this one had practically gift-wrapped itself for the internet. Lucas disappeared. He blocked Brooke. He blocked Grant. He blocked half the wedding party. Then he slipped out of the city before anyone could demand answers. The condo Brooke had signed for was non-refundable. Payments stacked up like quicksand. Then the ripple spread to my parents. Without the money, I had quietly been covering the utilities, the repairs, and even some of their overdue bills. Their perfect facade cracked wide open. They rented out the guest room. Charles picked up part-time work. Linda started selling antiques online and pretending it was a hobby. They did not call to apologize. They only called to ask whether I could help Brooke through a hard time. I did not take the call. Meanwhile, my world finally expanded instead of shrinking. I moved into a small apartment in downtown Charleston. It was nothing fancy, but it was full of light. There was space for my notebooks, my laptop, my late-night strategy sessions, and the version of myself I had been forced to keep small for too long. After the wedding fiasco went viral in business circles, clients started reaching out nonstop. Mr. Dalton introduced me to 2 CEOs. Evelyn nearly cried when she saw my calendar filling up. For the first time, I was not surviving my life. I was living it. And the strange part was, I did not miss any of them. By early spring, the noise around the wedding finally settled, leaving only the pieces everyone had to live with. Brooke was one of the first to crack through the silence. She showed up at my apartment one Friday afternoon. No heels, no designer bag, just a tired girl with swollen eyes and a voice that barely held itself together. "I don't need money," she said. "I just don't know where else to go." For a moment, I saw the sister I used to imagine having. Not the one who mocked me in a ballroom, not the one who believed Lucas over logic, just someone who had finally fallen far enough to see the ground I had lived on all my life. I let her in, but I gave her rules. No lies, no insults, no excuses. She nodded, grateful in a way I had never seen from her before. Grant kept in touch too. Soft check-ins, no pressure, a quiet steadiness that felt new but safe. Maybe something would grow there. Maybe not. For once, I did not feel rushed to define it. Standing by my window one night, watching the city lights flicker, I realized something simple and sharp. Being the quiet one never made me weak. It only made people underestimate the moment I finally chose myself. If you have ever been the overlooked one, the underestimated one, share your story in the comments. And if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe so you do not miss what comes next.